So I'm going to begin just by I want to sketch out two stories that are very real and very raw, just to kind of paint the landscape of where we're at. A few years ago, one of our parishioners, whose daughter was in 4th grade, was invited to her first slumber sleepover party. She's in 4th grade. So the mom was like, okay, that's great. We know your friend's parents, and so this little girl went to a slumber party with 6 other girls from the same grade. Well, it just so happened that at that slumber party, the birthday girl, unbeknownst to anyone, was addicted to internet pornography. And after mom and dad went to bed, this little girl exposed her 6 friends to hardcore graphic pornography. The little girl, who was a parishioner of ours, didn't know what she was even looking at. She couldn't comprehend what it was that, she didn't know what sex was. It took 3 months for her to tell her parents what had happened. And it was at about 2 o'clock in the morning, the bedroom door burst open, and their daughter was crying, saying, I can't take it anymore. I need to tell you what happened. So that's one end of the spectrum, right? Like, we don't know, even for those of us who care, and even for those of us who are trying to do something for our kids, we don't know where our kids are going. Like, this is just now the new reality, right? These parents then felt obligated, as they should, to then contact the 6 other girls' parents who had said nothing to mom and dad. Not one of those other 6 girls said something to their parents. And contact the birthday girl's parents. It caused uproar in the school, confusion, and conflict. Other story on the other end of the spectrum. A family who's heard me preach, probably too much, have followed the Father Meyer policy of no technology in the rooms that start with B. So you should never have your iPhone or technology in your bedroom, your bathroom, or your basement. These aren't good places that technology should be, right? So this family began a routine where every single night phones are checked in. And they have a common charging station. And every single night, mom and dad, before they go to bed, make sure that all the phones are there and that some kid didn't sneak down and put a phone back up, and everything is always in check. Well, they had a slumber party. They invited 2 girls from the school over to their house, not thinking anything about a struggle that they would have with technology in their home until it got to bedtime. And mom and dad said, hey, just so you know, like, here at our house, like, we all put our phones here at night and we charge them, and then they're here in the morning. And one of the girls started getting like real kind of nervous, and she said, I don't think I can do that. And the parents were like, no, it's great. You're going to be sleeping with all these girls, and you're just going to tell stories all night. It's going to be great. Like, really, you just leave your phone here. And the little girl said, I need to call my mom right now. So the parents said, really, it's going to be fine. You can just leave your phone here. It's not a big deal. And the little girl called her mom and asked her mom to come pick her up. And her mom picked her up. Mom literally came, picked her up, and she left the slumber party. So we live in a world where we have radical different spectrums. Like, those 2 stories I look at the one family like, thanks be to God, that's awesome. Like, you had great policies and you stuck to your ground, but we have parents that have presumably from the outside same values, same expectations, but radically different things happening in their homes. And so I really do think there needs to be a common understanding of what is our use of technology, how do we use it well, and how does it exist to serve us. And when we think about why we invented machines, where this all really started, right? Machines were invented to help us, to make our life easier. Like, we designed the wheel and the lever. Like we designed these things to make our life easier. And technology was supposed to work for us. But what happens when you begin to work for technology, which is actually now what technology is? We are actually working for technology every time that we choose to go on to social media, that we log into a site, that we go to. We're actually working for them as they capture every data point that we choose, or if we stay for half a second longer before swiping up, that data gets logged, and the next time that you log up, whatever you stayed for a half of a second more on a screen will now be in your memories forever. Technology exists to serve us, and when we say serve us, we have to ask, at the heart of this is, what is it to be human? And to be a human being means that we are a body-soul composite, that God made us, He created us, and He created us for love. And where do we experience love? We experience love in human relationships. We believe that human relationship in the sacraments is the sacrament of holy matrimony. We believe that in that sacrament of holy matrimony is the beautiful act of human sexuality that brings forth children, that brings forth life, which then creates family. Like, that's what we believe that living is about human interaction, human relationships, the sacrament of holy matrimony, the sacredness of sexual intimacy, and then the ripple effect of that, of more children and grandchildren and uncles and aunts, and we call all that living. And so technology is supposed to exist to sustain what really is living, which is really family life. So what happens when something that's supposed to serve family life actually begins to break down and deteriorate human life, or break down and deteriorate us having actual human relationships, us having healthy sexual relationships, when it breaks down marriage, when it breaks down relationships between mom and dad. So these are all things that we need to be really, really aware of. We should not be scared of technology because we are its master. We shouldn't be overwhelmed by it. But if we aren't aware of it, we're going to get into some really, really bad places. When it comes to technology, I think with young people, the image that has been going in my mind right now, most likely because our world is very consumed right now with guns. And we can talk about gun violence at another talk if we want to do that at some point. That would be great, but I'm just going to tell you right now that more lives are being destroyed by the phone in people's pockets than guns. More relationships, more depression, more suicide, more bullying, more cutting is being destroyed, and no one's talking about it. And I think the question, like to those two opening stories, would you allow your child to go to someone's home if you knew that mom and dad regularly left loaded guns that didn't have a safety all over the house? And I think the majority would be like, well, that would be crazy. I would never let my kid go to someone's house. They have loaded guns that are just on the kitchen table and in the basement and in the bathroom. Why would I do that? But when we talk about the effects of technology, and we talk about particularly the effects on the human psyche when it comes to depression, anxiety, and literally the crumbling of human sexuality, we're talking about things that's literally killing people and killing future relationships or the ability to enter into a relationship. So I think that analogy is really, really good, and I would take that with you and I would use it for the rest of your life. I want to talk about some things that you're going to leave here with tonight. I hate going to presentations where people read pieces of paper to me. So one of the reasons I didn't give you the pieces of paper, because I want to go over these pieces of paper. I didn't want you to be like, gosh, this guy's boring, because I could just read this. But we wanted to equip you with really, really good resources. And I'm going to talk in a general sense about technology and phones. And then we're going to have a presentation by Christine Eppert on the metaverse itself, which is the next step of where you're going. So I'm going to, which actually already exists and is already there, but it's going to take us to the next level. I'm going to deal in a little bit of sense, in more like the practical sense of where we're at now, what we can be doing and should be doing right now. And then we're going to talk about a next step about where also are we going in this. That's kind of just to give you a journey of a transition from our intro to where we're going now. So you're going to leave tonight with just a little instrument that we put together called Being Smart on the Internet. And this may seem really, really simple, but it's not simple for a lot of people. I know that it's not simple because of those two stories I told, but I also know that it's not simple because I work with young people every single day. The first is that really important for us to always know for ourselves is that the internet is public domain. And we need to be, so the S of smart on the internet is that safety first. And any public information or personal information that you put through the internet is now public. And this isn't some sort of conspiracy theory. This is just the reality. Like, raise your hand if you know that if somebody has had their identity stolen. Okay. And that could be you. Like, that is just the reality. It's not anything personal is public once it's on the internet. Done. 2, for M, is meet and mingle. It is very dangerous, and I met with a young adult yesterday, and I'll be honest, I contacted her friends. I met with a young adult yesterday who I thought that I knew very, very well, and she met a man on the internet, and she is moving to Chicago after 3 days meeting him. That is unstable, unsafe, and not healthy. And it happens a lot more than you could imagine. We are supposed to meet people and mingle with people. Once again, what were we created for? Relationship. And we do that in person. And the amount of people that are meeting, I'm not saying that it's not possible for people to use dating apps or for people to use things of those sorts. But when we talk about people that are meeting people online and meeting right away and coming together right away, you need to be very careful about what is taking place in those situations. That is not often safe. The big thing with that is that you should, in any of those situations, you should always go with someone else if you're going to meet them for the first time. Make sure that you're in a meeting in a public place, that people always know where you're at and what is going on. Did I ever tell you about the story about my sister and Ben Roethlisberger? Do you guys know who Ben Roethlisberger is? So it's really this crazy story about my sister. So my sister she went to school in Pittsburgh, and it was right after they won the Super Bowl. And my sister was at a club, and my sister was standing at a table with one of her friends, and Ben Roethlisberger was escorted through security to the private room in the back. And about 2 minutes later, security came over to my sister's table and invited my sister back said, Mr. Roethlisberger would like you to come to the back room with him. And my sister looked at the security. She said, I'll go, but only if she goes with me. Smart sister. Smart sister. They actually ended, it was crazy. They actually dated. My sister was his date for the Pittsburgh Super Bowl championship ball that they had or whatever. But then she dumped him because all he did was talk about himself. So anyways, but meeting and mingling on the internet can be very, you need to be very cautious about what's happening there. Because people are not who they always say they are, right? Good? Number 4, access and before access. Assess before access. This is about always before you download things, there needs to be a reality is this safe? Is this safe? Is this safe? When you don't know what you're downloading, this is going to be true when we talk about apps and other forms of technology, but it is better to not download than to ever download. Reliability, which is SMAR. Not everything you read on the internet is true. There's a lot of lies out there. I just met with a young man this past weekend who is marrying a young Catholic, and he is staunch anti-Catholic. And he told me about all these websites that he read and how he knows all these things about the Catholic Church. And I was like, have you ever read the Catechism of the Catholic Church? Like, here's a book. Like, this is a real book. Have you ever read this? Like, to start with this before you read all of this. When we were young kids, we were taught about when you go to the library to take books off of shelves to make sure that you want to check your sources. When you wrote your bibliography, you want to make sure that it's reliable information. And then always be willing to talk. SMART. You're going to see this come up on other people. We're going to talk. Like, we should be talking about what's on the internet with other people. Whenever anything seems fishy with the internet, you should always be talking to other people, and you should not be delving into deep rabbit holes, which is where a lot of people will end up. I talked to a seminarian. I have all these real stories. I talked to a seminarian this past week who was thinking about leaving seminary. And I said, what's going on? And he started saying some things, and I said, can I just ask real quick, like, what are you reading on the internet? Like, what are you listening to on the internet? And he mentioned a few things, and I was like, you just need to get out now. Like, you need to get out of there, and you need to go to our Lord, and you need to go to the Bible, and you need to refine, like, your love. Because it's very easy for people to get, like, caught in vicious, dark places and cycles, even when it comes to the church, right? And we can lose our joy, and that's not where we want to be. So those are just, like, overarching tools for all of us to remember. I've put together this. Actually, I was going to say that I did not make it look this good, but these are my 10 things that I think that every parent should have when it comes to working with your young people. So imagine those two stories in the beginning. Imagine if those families had a common understanding of what technology use looked like in their home. They didn't, but I think we need to start asking that. It's sad, but I think, like, if it was a common thing that people just allowed, like, loaded guns to be around their house, like, I think we'd have to start asking parents, like, hey, do you allow loaded guns in your house? Just wanted to check. Oh, you don't? Great. My friends can come over. So this is just 10 things that I think should be a common understanding of how technology is used in people's home. First is setting parental controls on all electronic devices. And you might say, Father, I don't know how to do that. You are so lucky, because you are leaving with 2 resources today. Parental controls for Kindle, Amazon Fire, and tablets, and parental controls for iPhones, iPods, and an iPad. And I'm going to tell you, I read through these, and they are, like, stupid technology safe. Like, you can do this. It literally, like, it takes you step by step by step. And this will help you to put on the parental controls and actually make it very clear the desire that you have for your children to be safe on the internet. So number 1 is set parental controls. Number 2, when we talked about downloading a second ago, as a parent, you have to be the one who downloads apps onto your children's electronic devices. Children downloading apps allows them free reign to enter into really bad worlds, and you need to be the one who makes those decisions. I always like to remind parents, you bought that technology, it's yours, it's not your child's. Now, if your child who's whatever age is buying their own technology, they still live in your house. So you still have the ability to say that I'm going to install and delete apps. Number 3 is passwords should never be a secret. So this is your children's phones. You should know the passwords to all of them. If you have a lot of children, then you should learn lots of passwords. Or you should have the same password for all family phones, because we're all family, right? And if you have multiple kids that have phones, then all of those people can have the exact same phone, because what are we hiding? If we're not hiding anything, it's one of the things I always like as well when like husband and wife have the same email address. I'm always like, that's actually really awesome. There's something beautiful about that. Like everything that they do, they both see all the time. So set parental controls. Parents install and delete apps. Passwords are not secrets. 4, never sleep with a phone. There are study after study after study after study about how people don't sleep well because they're sleeping with their phones. One of my staff members just turned her phone to a grayscale to get rid of the color on her phone because she was in the midst of preparation for this. One of the things that she read was that the color on the phone is actually one of the things that constantly makes your mind buzz. But a grayscale phone is actually much easier on your eyes, your mind, and the stimulation that goes, which actually keeps you from sleeping. Number 5, device-free meals. We've all seen it. Hopefully we haven't participated, maybe you have, but when you go to events and you look over and the table next to you is all on their phone. I will admit this. I have no qualms about this. On the 7th anniversary, on the one anniversary of Father Mahan and I being here together, which is July 7th, 7/7, we became the pastor of 7 churches. We went to 3rd and Main. And if you've ever been to 3rd and Main, you financially might still be struggling. But so here we are at one of the most expensive restaurants that you can go to. And we look, at one point I said, look around. Every single table was on their phones. And no one was talking about besides him and I. You were out at the nicest restaurant you can go to. And this is what you're choosing to do, is that the person across the table from you isn't why you're there. It's so crazy. We have to fight this, and it has to start at home. Like, kids need to be taught at home. No, I don't use my phone at home. They should be going to school or going to Skyline with their friends and be like, put your phone away. That should be your kid. Like, that should be your kid. Like, what a leader that would be. That would be fantastic. Car time is for talking time. Car time is for talking time. So no phones at meals. And parents, particularly for so many of you who are on the run, and you do an amazing job parenting your kids, raising your kids, but you spend a lot of time in the car with your kids. But that time is precious. If your kid's at a sports team and they're with a coach and then they're with their team and you want to catch up, and it's easy for them to either zone out or to lose that time, which for us is so very, very, very important to form those relationships, to help them process, and for you to hear them, which is beautiful. Number 7 is the reminder of no phones in the 3 rooms that start with B's or computers: bedroom, bathroom, basement. I always like to remind people all the time, all those rooms are very clear about, a bedroom exists to sleep in. Well, Father, where am I supposed to study? It's called a kitchen, a family room, a common room. You can study there as well. You really can. It's possible. These places don't have to be where they're at. I will tell you that, and I know that this is not real hard stuff, but when I'm in the confessional and people come in, particularly young people that are addicted to internet pornography, I always ask the question, where do you charge your phone? I'll often ask, where did you look at pornography? Bedroom, bathroom, basement. It's always one of the 3. And then I'm where do you charge your phone? And I'm if you made a commitment in this confessional today to never take your phone again into your bedroom, bathroom, or basement, would you be all the more able to conquer this sin? And every single time they're gosh, Father, I've never thought about that. It's crazy. Wow, that's a pretty simple thought, right? But it's hard for people to make the jump to say, if I just didn't bring the phone into these rooms, and if I just had the phone in common spaces, I could actually move away from this and be a different person. So those are just some basic ways to avoid ourselves. In the act of contrition, we say that we're going to avoid the occasion of sin. Well, for some people, having your phone in your bedroom is not an occasion of sin at all, but for a lot of people, it is. And then consider the use of a flip phone over a smartphone. Can be a great, great grace for many, many people. Number 9 is we agree to have honest conversations about the internet usage and addiction. And number 10 is that we as parents have to be the role models. I go to a lot of county parks and state parks for running, and you see a lot of parents, their kids are on the playground and the parents are on the phone. And one of the things that kids need just as a psychological, they need people to affirm them. You know, when you go down the slide and your grandma and grandpa or your mom and dad, oh, great job, good. But if mom and dad aren't engaged and they aren't watching, those kids need that playfulness and that ability for them to hear their parents actually building them up and affirming them in what they're doing. But when we get snatched in the internet as well, it keeps those human actions from taking place. We also have there's a national movement called Wait Till 8th. And Wait Till 8th is a national movement to wait as a bare minimum to get a smartphone or an iPhone until someone is in 8th grade. And you can actually go to a website and you can register this commitment that you're going to make, and it gives you much more information as well on technology, but also is supposed to be kind of a group effect. Like, hey, parents, we're going to do this together, and we're going to make this commitment. And it's not the fact that we don't want our kids to be safe. Like, we can get them a flip phone or a dumb phone, whatever people want to call it, so that, you know, if they're late for soccer practice, they can call someone, or if there's an emergency, they're able to get a hold of people. But do they need the ability to have access to all of these things, and do they need the distractions that are going to keep them from living fully alive? And that's what we want for our young people, is that opportunity to be fully alive, to be fully engaged with life. So you'll be taking home this today as well. Questions about anything that I've said? Does it all sound kind of basic? The problem is that it's not basic. Because if it was basic, everybody would be doing it. We would all be living like better lives, which we're not quite there yet. So I'm going to turn things over to Christine. And Christine, actually, one of the things that's really awesome about her presentation, which I got to see a little earlier, is she actually takes us a little bit through the history of where we're at and how quickly we've gotten to where we're at. And I think where we're going it's just another world. It's not our world. It's genuinely another world, and we need to be ready. I think when we look at her presentation, like, if we would have known, would we have acted differently? If we would have known, would we have acted differently? And so I'm going to turn things over to Christine. Thank you.